massive welcome to my beautiful interview with Kate Gray, who is someone that, I've been following for a long time. I've been working with Kate. Kate's been serving and supporting me in my business, and she's someone I really, feel can bring incredible value to you personally and professionally. So massive welcome, Kate, and thank you for saying yes to the interview.
Oh, I would always say yes to you, Teresa. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone watching. I'm really excited about being here.
Thank you, Kate. So today we're going to be talking about the topic of breaking free from the status quo and carving a new paradigm of leadership, which I see that you really walk the talk in this, Kate. And I wanted to invite you in to share a little bit more about yourself and about your journey with our audience before we dive into some juicy nuggets of gold.
Yay! Okay, well, hello, everybody. It's wonderful to meet you. If I've not met you before, my name is Kate Gray, and I am the founder and visionary of the Growth Impact Group. My little journey started on a teeny tiny little island called Tasmania. And yes, I did have the other head removed. For those Australians who are going to assume that, it is true. Those who are not from Australia, everybody else in Australia picks on us Tasmanians saying that we have two heads. So I just thought I'd play along with that joke. So it started in Tasmania. I grew up in a family. My mother was amazing. My father didn't really like me very much, and I was subjected to quite a lot of emotional and psychological abuse. It led me to a drug addiction, ended up with a meth addiction in my early 20s, lived on the street. My father passed away from cancer. And during the time that he was sick, that was probably the biggest mirror for me to look at myself, where I was at. And when he died, and I was with him when he died, knowing that if I didn't clean up my life, that very well could be me dying soon. And I was so young, and I was like, I don't want to do that. And his death kind of was my rebirth in a way. It's kind of odd to say that. That led me on a path of entrepreneurship, and I've been on that path since my early 20s. I will not disclose my age, but it's been a while. Since then, I've scaled a 7-figure retreat business, coaching business, spiritual coaching and business coaching. And now I have Growth Impact Group, and we partner with coaching companies who earn over $1 million a year, and we do their AI outbound lead generation.
Thank you, Kate. When I hear your story, it's so inspiring to me, and the thing that comes to me when I hear your story, obviously, you are a testament to your character, to being on your true path in life. When you had that moment, where you made that decision, that conscious choice for yourself, I'd love to ask, what unfolded, like, what was your realization after that? Like, what set you on the path that you moved into?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like, I remember distinctly that it all kind of felt like it unfolded in a moment. So I held my dad's hand when he passed away, and I remember asking myself, like, what is he thinking about right now? Like, and when people die, I don't know if it happens to all people, but it happened to my dad, they get this thing called the death rattles. And like, his breathing was becoming laborious. And I was like, what is he thinking? And the beautiful nurse was like, it's okay, Jeff. My father's name was Jeff as well. It's okay. You're all right. It's fine. And she was like talking him through. And I was like, wow, what's he thinking? And I was like, well, I'm sure he's not thinking of all the hours he spent driving a forklift in the storeroom that he worked at for, I think he worked there for 25 years. And he's not thinking of all the times that he missed our sports games because he was working in the storehouse. He worked 7 days a week. I'm sure he's actually thinking about all the dreams that he probably didn't fulfill, and all the things that he missed out on because he literally lived at work, which I believe is probably that and a bad diet, which is what made him sick. Yeah. And it made me sad because I was like, he's dying with dreams unfulfilled and his full potential not realized. And there's no backing out. When you're getting the death rattles, you're out. Like, that's it. There's no, and my whole life has been second chance after second chance, drug addict, partying, been in so many nefarious situations where I could have been. I'm surprised I wasn't murdered, to be honest, with all the situations I put myself in. You know, from hanging out with like heads of gangs, like to all sorts of stuff, like serious gangs that were extreme criminals. I'd had near misses all the time. I'd always just been okay. And so when I was there with my father, questioning what's he thinking about, and knowing that there's no backing out for him in this moment, he's about to die, and with him, his dreams die, I was like, oh no, I don't want that for me. Oh no, 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 no. It was enough for me just to kind of instantly make a change. Like there was a hard process afterwards, but I never gave up or went back. And it's because that was so traumatic. And I think I heard somebody, Alex Samosi actually said the other day that when we're going through extreme trauma, a traumatic situation, the brain is looking for lessons. I don't know if that's the way it kind of copes with what's happening, but I was looking for lessons, and those lessons imprinted on my very being very quickly.
Wow. Wow. That's huge. Like that, you know, when we sit and take in what you've just shared, you know, that's really profound. You know, and you came to a place where you faced a reality for yourself. You know, you faced a reality of where you were in that time, but where you want to be. And you made a very strong, conscious choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as entrepreneurs, one of the reasons many fail is because they don't face the reality of things. Like, being a realist is such a gift as an entrepreneur, and it's one that many people refuse to look at, and it's one of the reasons why they don't reach their full potential.
Yeah, that's gold. That is gold. Absolutely. That's a real key takeaway there, Kate. You know, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is this, would you say, is this one of the principles for you that has helped you to quickly, you know, 15 years from that decision to where you are now, you know, transcend, move beyond a meth addiction is no small feat in itself, let alone, you know, creating, you know, successful businesses?
Yeah, I think it is. Like, to be honest, I feel like it's an ever evolving skill because I always learn a little bit more every time I launch a new project, every time I launch a new campaign for a client, every time I start a new business or start trying to learn a new skill. I learn a little bit more about that realism. And I learned something so profound the other day that I wish I had have known 10 years ago. And I really hope that this helps somebody listening, is that there's a guy called Charlie Munger who was the business partner for Warren Buffett and some of the best investors in the world. He passed away just shy of his 100-year birthday. And he had this process whenever he was going into a project where he would list all of the ways that it actually could go wrong. So he would list every way that he could fail and completely destroy that project. Then he would list all the counter solutions to that. So, you know, for example, with what we do, it would be like, okay, cool. How could we really screw up this campaign? And I didn't want to do this in the beginning. I was like, no, it'll be fine. Like, I'm experienced, but doing it literally has made us so much better as a company and me so much better as an entrepreneur and a person. One way we could mess it up is by scraping the wrong leads. We could be flippant with the leads we scrape. They could not be targeted. That could really ruin our campaigns. And so then I would be like, okay, well, what's the counter to that? How do I solve it? Well, make sure the leads list that I get are targeted and quality leads and leads that haven't been scraped a million times before, like LinkedIn. And then the next part is I go, well, how can I make that operational? And that's the how can I make that operational piece is when I go, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to make sure that I use this broker, and this broker to get leads. The leads will be targeted. They'll be cross-referenced here. They'll be opted in. And so that's the system. What's the SOP that goes to making sure we're mitigating against that potential failing? That in itself, if you do that in business, in any project really, whether it's somebody wanting to transform their physique, whether it's, you want to learn how to drive, whether you want to learn how to skydive, whether you're launching a lead generation campaign. If you use that strategy, you will win quickly and swiftly.
Wow. Yeah, thanks for that. Strategy is incredibly important. Would you say that's, a main focus of yours in terms of your success?
Yeah, I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said, somebody asked him, I don't know why they asked him this question. It was so weird. They like, Mr. President, if you were to chop down a tree, how would you go about it? And he was like, well, I would spend 4 hours planning and strategizing how I'm going to chop down the tree, and I would spend 2 hours chopping down the tree. And the amount of preparation that we need to do strategically is extremely important. But beyond that, I would say emotional regulation. And I think, as you say it, sitting in the tension and being able to recognize and sit in friction points and find solutions for them would almost trump. You could have a subpar strategy with the ability to do that and you will still win.
Yeah. Incredible. And how important in your journey, from that moment of your conscious decision, has it been for you to realize who you are, realize your gifts, your strengths? Like, did you go down a journey of realizing, your greatness in terms of gifts, strengths, desire, purpose, what lights you up?
It was really hard, actually, because my trauma is, I think, what drove my success. And I think that's for many people, like, success is a byproduct of trauma generally. If you look at people that are highly successful, they, all bar the ones that were born into that, most of us have had some level of extreme trauma. So when I kind of got to a point where I didn't feel traumatized anymore, and I felt like I had healed that element of myself, then I was very confused about how to be successful. And that's when I got to know who I was. That was when I got to know what my strengths were. And because I didn't have drive anymore. I was like, oh, I can't be bothered. Who cares? I don't want to post on social media. Whatever. Like, because that desire to be seen and fulfilled through external circumstances was gone. That was difficult. And I think the biggest thing, which sounds kind of odd to people, and I know a lot of people will push up against this, and that's okay, but it's just what really helped me, was when I took the Myers-Briggs test. Now, I know the Myers-Briggs test is flawed, and they're all flawed, but let me just tell you this. The Myers-Briggs test is still used to this day by MI6, the CIA, and all three-letter agencies in America and espionage agencies across the world. So, albeit flawed, it still has enough relevance for them to use it to turn people to sell secrets against their country. So it's still got some kind of, quality there. Doing that helped me beyond words, because I realized that my personality, everything I thought was wrong with me, was actually just part of my personality that I had, and it was okay. And when I realized that, I doubled down on my strengths, and that's when I got really good at things.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I found the same too. Having the awareness of what your strengths are, and really seeing the strengths in the strengths, but also the weaknesses in the strengths as well, because when we have both sides, right, there is that dichotomy there. Yeah. How did you work with that and with that? I think you mentioned about the trauma was driving, which is the weakness in the strengths, but did you find a correlation that sort of maintained you, breaking free of the status quo of the trauma of, what the blueprint that what has been there in terms of leading that way of life that you were in, and then shifting into, your pathway of greatness?
Yeah, I love that. Yes, there's always a weakness to our strength. But knowing that there's a duality or a dichotomy to what we're good at allowed me to shift from being reactive to reacting to that, rather than I got to become, I feel like I'm pretty self-aware. So I was able to then show up differently by choice because firstly, I recognize the strength. So then by default, I recognize the weakness. Then I could choose differently because I was committed to the vision and mission of what I was creating, greater to than me needing to react and be right. So for example, I'm an ENTJ, which I think is 0.8% of the female population. And one of our strengths is we're good. They call us the commanders. We're really good at leading, but we're also can be really offensive and be too direct, and people can get upset by us. So what I learned to soften my communication, and I learned to be more flexible with my communication, but still have a sense of being commanding and leading the ship. But I just learned to actually communicate to all the other personality types. And if I didn't know that that's part of my personality, I wouldn't have been able to choose the opposite, if that makes sense.
Yeah, total sense. Yeah, absolutely. And being authentic, to your personality, but to your true nature, is something that is a powerful strength, right? Do you want to speak into your personality and the alignment in terms of you as an individual, but also going deeper into you as a human being? You mentioned vision and mission. Do you want to speak into that? Like, where did that come from for you?
Yeah. So for me, along my journey, I did Zen Buddhism for a long time, Ashtanga yogi for a long time, meditation, shamanic practices, plant medicines, everything. But for me, about 3 years ago, I became Christian, which I never thought I would. I hated God. I thought he was lame. And I was like, who's this Jesus guy? He's weird. And what happened was I divorced myself from what I call the New Age. And I divorced myself from it because after 17 years, although there'd been a lot of healing, I still felt like I was looping in the same cycles. And everyone around me, or not everyone, most people around me in that space were also looping. And they'd been in it for years as well. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. It just feels like I'm paying more money to go and sit at the feet of gurus, and I'm going to ashrams, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And it's still not quite right. There's something missing. And so what was weird was all around me, the people who were very stable and together and I had alignment of values with, they were all Christian. And I was like, well, this is weird, because I think that Christians are weird. And I still do. To be clear, I think there's a difference between being in Christ and religion. I wouldn't say I'm religious. In fact, I'm very anti the religious spirit. I think dogma and the religious spirit of like being mean and horrible and judgmental is actually not what Jesus would have done. In fact, if you go over the Gospels, Jesus was a freedom fighter. He was anti-religion. He actually was counter the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He was here to bring something new. So I'm more in alignment with that. I really resonate with the rebel of Jesus. But if you listen to religious doctrine and dogma, they kind of leave that out, and they just kind of point their fingers and poke rules and start wars and things like that. That's not my jam. So having come to that point and going, okay, well, I started exploring it, and then I watched a TV show called The Chosen, which is a great show. I was like, you know what? I know a lot about archetypes. I've studied archetypes inside and out, upside and down for 17 years. And I tell you what, that Jesus guy on that show, he does a damn good job of embodying all those archetypes. I was like, wow, he's like angry, but he's soft, and he's fierce, but he's compassionate. And I'm like, there might be something in this. And so that kind of led my journey into that. And so for me, my mission and vision is very much tied into, and I'm going to sound super nerdy here, but the Lord's Prayer is, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So for me, I'm about bringing God's heaven to earth. And so I'm not a minister, I'm not a preacher, I'm not a Christian influencer. I'm really good at making money, and I'm really good at stewarding wealth. So my job is to make a lot of money and then pour that back into, like, I call it a marketing campaign for Jesus, because I personally think that there's been a lot of damage done, particularly in this country. I'm in America. So we get to put that back in and help others and contribute to not-for-profits and just supporting people And through the grace he's given me, I get to pass that grace on to other people. That's pretty much it. So that's my mission and vision. And it feels I feel like my whole nervous system has been reset. That's the best way to explain it. And I did a lot of somatics, a lot of plant medicine, and never have I felt my nervous system be this reset before.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. So you got curious, you're in a state of curiosity, and exploring and being open. And that really led you to that divine connection, that relationship with being, in a state of Christ, in Christ, and recognizing that higher vision and mission for yourself at that level. That's very profound.
Yeah, it was just noticing people around me. I'm like, I want what they have. And the cool thing was they never ever preached at me or judged me. They just lived their life. And I was like, I'm so curious about what's making you guys so happy. This is really odd. It was great.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that. And having, known you for, I think, 2 years, Kate. I think we've known each other for 2 years. I've definitely seen that transition in you. Like, yeah, it's been quite incredible to witness. And I think, when we have other people around us who really are carving that path of new paradigm, that calling, that is in their hearts, and weaving a way of life and bringing light into the world in their unique way. It's very powerful, Yeah.
Thank you. I love that. That Jesus came to bring a new paradigm. And I think that's what's missed a lot of the time. People get caught up on the other stuff. And whilst I do believe there are rules, I think leading with judgment is only ever going to ostracize people. And that wasn't what Jesus was about. He sat with sinners, with prostitutes, with tax collectors, with criminals. The Christian church really has a lot to answer for, and they need a massive overhaul. So if anyone's watching this and you've got church hurt, I feel you. And just know that wasn't what Jesus was about. Not at all.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate, for being so open and transparent around this aspect of you and your message, because it is, church hurt is a real thing. I've got a lot of people in my field who carry that as well. So thank you for bringing that through for us. I have one more question. Yes. I know we're nearly up for time, but I asked my audience, what would they love to hear from Kate Gray? And I have quite a few questions, but I'm going to pick one here. So let me have a look here. Oh, there's 2 good ones. All right, I'm going to ask, what was the number one thing that changed the game for you and made the biggest difference to your growth and success?
I'm going to say it and people can roll their eyes and it's okay. I actually think becoming Christian helped me so much. That was the moment I felt like my trauma was gone. Because I forgave myself, because I felt God's forgiveness. And I don't think I'd ever felt that. And C.S. Lewis, who's an amazing author, we all know who C.S. Lewis is, he says that, we all have a godlike shape in our heart and only he can fill it. And so for me, that filling of that hole in my heart was the thing that really helped me transcend my trauma and really step into the strength of who I was and am.
Thank you, Kate. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing the gold and your incredible journey and inspiration. Really, really grateful to have you here with us. And hopefully you might agree to be back on again sometime, because I'm sure there's more we can bring to the table.
Yes. I would love that. I'm available to chat anytime. You know where to find me.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, thank you. Big love, everyone.